Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. Playing the video games released 42 years ago today. Let's go back to November 1982.
If you think ColecoVision plays all Atari cartridges,
It's here.
Here's Pac-Man.
Oh, yes, it can.
But here's Pac-Man for the Atari 5200 Super System.
Wow, look at the difference.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't work on ColecoVision.
But won't their adapter?
It won't play Super System cartridges.
Not pole position?
Not this pole position.
Not centipede?
Not this centipede.
Those massive
Only
cartridges.
on the Atari 5200 Super System.
But aren't they hard to find?
They're everywhere.
Everywhere?
The Atari 5200
I'm not sure about that one. Alright, it's finally the release, the launch of the Atari 5200 Super System. Man, is this system hard to pin down on what exactly was released or came out that you could get at launch, because Atari has been advertising this system all year long in 1982. That they said that in the fall this system would come out, then they said it would be out in October for sure. We saw it in lots of magazines, and I had some publications say that the system and the first game, Super Breakout, were out. So we played that one sometime in October if it really was released then. And now let's play some official launch titles. But some people, because it was only released in certain areas or certain places in North America, maybe you got different launch titles than the ones we see tonight. Let's start with our very first one. It's Galaxian on the Atari 5200. I'm so excited, but I'm actually expecting this to be exactly like Galaxian that we already played on the Atari home computer. Here's the box. The Atari 5200 brand is going for the gray on blue, or blue on gray. And the front of this box is really close to the one we saw on the Atari home computers. Yes, lovely. We flip over the back of the box, even though the front of the artwork is very well done. The back has the system, the joysticks, 1 or 2 players. The Galaxian fleet has invaded, and actually they've invaded on lots of games, but they've been clones of games. This is the second game we played for the Atari 5200 after Super Breakout, and we originally saw Galaxian back in the arcades October 1979. The only other official games we've seen in the Galaxian series has been Galaga, that was in the arcade, and then the one we just saw on the Atari home computer. Everything else has been clones of games. But I'm going to go through this artwork. There's been plenty of games called Galaxian, like we said whenever we played this on the home computer. They called the games Galaxian or Galaxians, even though it wasn't official. There's one on the Epoch Cassette Vision, Bally Astrocade, Exidy Sorcerer, Acorn Atom, ZX81, ZX Spectrum, BBC Micro, Emerson Arcadia 2001. All those systems have a game called Galaxian, but it's not official. It's not for real. Yeah, there you go. There's the actual box for Galaxian, or the ad you would have seen in magazines a little bit later, I believe. Which player is about to score with flying colors? Oh, there you go. Yeah, so this is a later release because that's Galaxian for the Atari VCS, which we're not going to see, I believe, until 1983, but don't quote me on that one. As far as all the other games out there, we played 79 other games that are variants of Galaxian, and 6 of them have been on home consoles, which is kind of what this is competing with. Here's some more advertisements or catalog items of the 5200 that you would have seen, including all these games. Look at this. Well, at least a later version of it. And there you go. And there's also some that say coming soon, because there was lots of promised games for the Atari 5200 that never came to be. There's the system itself. Oh, yes, and the controllers. I see the sad face there, Brian, and yes, this one is trackball compatible. That's right, Marshall. There's the cartridge we're going to pop in, and just like we saw in the commercial, these cartridges are huge. They are not the same size as the 2600. So if you have the adapter for the ColecoVision, sorry, you can't plug these in and play. I wish we could plug the Atari in and play. There's the amazing artwork for Galaxian. Only seen at home. They didn't have anything like this in the arcades. There's the example of a screenshot, and here's the manual for Galaxian. I'm expecting lore, lots of lore. Bring on all the lore. There you go, table of contents. How do we play the game? The trackball option if you want to use it. Defend the planet. Oh man, yeah, it's pretty much the same story I think we saw on the Atari home computer. No sooner than you join the Intergalactic Warrior Fleet. Yes. Flagships never fly alone. They always rank by protective escorts. Colorful uniforms. So you can take them all out. Nevertheless, the initial battle is thwarted, but the battle isn't over yet. They'll be back stronger than ever. Great artwork for the manual. The game objective is to destroy the Galaxian fleet. Just blow everybody up. shoot everything. You start the game with 3 command ships or 3 lives, and what I'm looking for is variations or options that they give us. That ship right there looks very questionable. I think we should have changed the artwork there, Atari. Here's the Atari 5200 controllers. They are analog joysticks. That means expect some drift on these controllers. They have a keypad, which means they can use an overlay, and they got the numbers on the side. Plus, they have the ability to pause from the joystick. It is revolutionary, even though we've been pausing video games on the Atari home computer since 1979. So here's the keypad overlay for this one. You slide that over. You have just easy mode. You have all the different game skill levels, 1 through 9, and then you can do 1 or 2 players if you want to as well. But that's it. It's just skill levels and then 1 or 2 players. That's all the options. We don't have anything else after that. I really was expecting something else. The controllers themselves are very prone to break and tear down. In fact, if you can find one right now intact that works flawlessly, I'd love to play with it. So there's the trackball option. You can do that if you want to as well. The trackball was a big idea because this was the first time we got an official trackball for video games at home. Oh, that's so cool, Charlie. Yes, and they were awful. Even all the ones I play with have never been brand new. So there's some of the point values for playing Galaxian. They're giving us a lot of the information about the game, but it's pretty much the same as what we have already seen on the Atari home computer. There's the example of what the different skill levels are, and they do give us some game strategy as well. Pause the video if you want to get the best strategy to play Galaxian on your Atari 5200. Let's just pop in and play a little bit of Galaxian, what the first experience would have been like. This is by Joseph Tung and Alan J. Murphy. In the beginning of November 1982, Namco brought this over officially, and then Atari helped out as well. So some of the best ways you could play Galaxian-style games has been on home consoles, like, just to go against what this is, as it should be rated against, is Galaxian for the Epoch Cassette Vision, Galactic Invasion or Galaxian on the Bally Astrocade, Space Attack or Galaxian on the Arcadia 2001, and Condor Attack for the Atari 2600. That's pretty much like Galaxian-style games that are really good that you could play, not counting all the ones that are like Phoenix, because some of the best stuff is going to be other fixed shooters. This is the 366th fixed shooter we've played across all systems. There's 44 of them. This is the 44th on home consoles, all home consoles that are out there. And some of the best ones where you're going to move left, right, and fire right now is going to be Demon Attack. Sonic Invader on the Creative Vision, Communist Mutants from Space, I love that game, Cosmic Arc. Joseph Tung isn't new to the show either. This is the second game we've seen him do after Real Sports Baseball, and Alan J. Murphy has done, this is the 4th game, graphics. He did Defender on the Atari 2600, Demons to Diamonds, and Real Sports Volleyball. All right, so let's just go right into it. I'm just going to do player 1 because this one is a take turns affair. You're going to be doing alternate play gaming. This right now looks like 1-to-1. It looks exactly like the Atari home computer version that we just played. The only thing that feels different is the control. Because I'm playing on the analog joystick, it feels like it's not it's not as tight or smooth, but just barely. Most of the time, though, as I'm playing the game, it feels all right to play. It's just at this point, we played so much Galaxian and games like Galaxian, or moving left, right, and firing, that I know that we were a little spoiled here because we played everything that's possible, but how impressed would you be right now for the release of this brand new system to play this? Like, is it really that amazing? Even though it's officially brought over by Namco, but we already have games that play really close to this. I know they invented the whole, colored move left, right, and fire, but is it really that big a deal? It shares the same specs, but what's just asinine is Atari didn't make it so you could take this cartridge on the 5200 and put it in your home computer, and then vice versa. You can't take the home computer one and put it in your Atari 5200. Another strange, weird design choice that led to something coming up next year. No spoiler alerts here. But as far as gameplay goes, it's pretty bare bones. I'm actually thinking this is somewhere along the same realm as games that we've already seen for home console, like Mega Mania. It's not nearly as impressive as something like Demon Attack, because Demon Attack was based on Phoenix, which was based on Galaxian. So it's like, you know, they're taking the evolution, and this just feels like just classic, you know, standard video game fare. The artwork, though, is really good. The way that they brought this home is nice. Artwork was done by James Kelly. Check him out. Way to go, James. I will not be rating the games tonight because we are going to have a special guest that'll come on and re-rating the games for us. Let's press forward to see our next game. Yeah, thanks so much for the ratings in the chat. Send them out and see if you can influence the guest we're going to have on. But tonight, I'm just going to do a little bit of samples and take a look at some of the artwork for the games. Our very next game that you could get for the Atari 5200 at launch is Pac-Man. Yes, Pac-Man. Let's see what's up with Pac-Man. This one's already had an infamous history on home consoles. And here on the Atari 5200, I included a screenshot or a scan that has the sticker sold with the Atari 5200, not for resale. The artwork, they changed up a little bit for this version. It looks really nice, really classic, looks really good for the Atari 5200, at least branding-wise. We originally saw Pac-Man as Puck-Man in Japan, May 1980, and then Pac-Man in North America in October 1980. Since then, the official series of Pac-Man has had the Pac-Man for Coleco on the handheld in 1981, Pac-Man for Tomy, which is not official, in 1981, and then Pac-Man for the Intex Select-A-Game in 1981. Then we saw Miss Pac-Man in January of this year, 1982. After that was Pac-Man Plus in the arcade in March of 1982. After that, we saw Pac-Man on the Atari VCS. Oh yes, the flickering mess that it was on March 16th, 1982. After that, we saw Pac-Man on the Atari home computer in May 1982. Then we saw Super Pac-Man in the arcade in August 1982. And after that was Baby Pac-Man, the video game / pinball hybrid, in October. So this is the next official release of Pac-Man. Now's your chance to really excel in arcade-like fun. Atari Pac-Man is much fun as the original arcade game. Chase the ghosts, eats the dots, go for the tasty fruit bonuses, and the whopping 5,000 bonus points. I don't believe this one is compatible with the trackball, but why would you want to play Pac-Man with a trackball in the first place? I don't know. It is brought to us officially by Namco. And the only game we've seen that Namco's brought home has been on the Atari 2600. This is the 70th game that Atari has published on all home consoles. You know, mostly the Atari VCS. So here's the other artwork we have for Pac-Man. And the ad you would have seen with a slightly different artwork. The ghosts look a little bit more anxious, and Pac-Man looks just a little bit too happy, munching on those dots. Yeah, Galaxian used the trackball. I don't think Pac-Man ever did. No, we haven't seen Pac and Pal yet, Chiptune. Maybe by the end of the year, or maybe 1983 is when we'll see that one. There's the cartridge for Pac-Man. And the asterisk is there because you better recognize Bally Midway and Namco are the reason we got this on the home console. And no one better copy anything like Pac-Man, even though we've seen 126 Pac-Man variants out there. And 19 games that play like Pac-Man have been on home consoles that we've seen on the show so far. There's the fantastic artwork for the new Pac-Man on the Atari 5200. And an example of a screenshot, too. All right, so how do we play some Pac-Man? We've seen so many manuals for variants of Pac-Man that no one needs to tell us how to play. We know exactly what to do. Oh, look, there he is. That looks more like the cartoon Pac-Man, which is out right now. Pac-Man has won the hearts of men, women, and children all over the world. Atari created a Pac-Man game for your Atari 5200 system. Yes. It's got Pac-Man and Shadow the Red Ghost provide the halftime cartoon entertainment. Oh, they are basing it on the TV show. Very nice. Relax and enjoy the game. Wait, was that it? There's no real story? They didn't bring any lore? I can't believe it. What's going on, Atari? So there's the gameplay. We got to keep Pac-Man alive, and they're actually breaking down how to play. How are you supposed to eat all the dots and devour everything up? When Pac-Man eats an energy pill, the ghost turned blue. Yeah, they're explaining. I can't believe they are. And then over on the left side, they give us the screenshot breaking down the score, where Pac-Man is, your lives remaining. Now, this was more helpful for the Atari VCS version. Here on the 5200, we can kind of understand Pac-Man. It looks very similar to the arcade. I don't know about that one, Chiptune. I know, Charlie, compared to the 2600 version, this is so nice. still really close to the version we've already seen on the Atari home computer at this point. All right, so there's a tasty bonus treat. They have the cherries in the middle, and then they included some artwork in the manual for us as well. It is using the Atari 5200 controllers. Wah, wah. And there's our overlay. The overlay really is what game level, as if we're pushing the button on the Atari home computer, and then if you want 1 or 2 players. You can't play at the same time. You have to take turns. Those game variations, they're cheaping us. So there's our control skis. You have to just move Pac-Man around. Very, very simple. You got the idea. They're not doing anything special or different. We've seen plenty of variations of Pac-Man at this point. Video games based on Pac-Man. The idea of a top-down maze game came from Pac-Man. It's just so classic. And this one's just going straight for the arcade-style game. And there's some survival tactics, tips and tricks. And hey, look, a best score. Who's JSP? Leave a comment down below if you have that score that you put down back in 1985. Sweet. That's fun seeing that. All right, let's pop in and play some Pac-Man on the Atari 5200 by James Andreasen and Alan J. Murphy again, beginning of November 1982. James Andreasen, we saw do Haunted House. So this is the second game that we've seen him do. And Alan J. Murphy, it's his 5th game. All right, so this one's going to be competing against the other Pac-Man-like games on home consoles. I don't really want to pit this against the Atari VCS because that's not fair on home consoles. That game is, I mean, it was a lower end of the spectrum for all the games you could play. All right, so if you do the on your overlay, you're pushing 1 or 2 player game. That's going to be taking turns. But if you look at the fruit, you can see I can cycle through the fruit and pick the fruit difficulty level that I want. And whenever you're ready, you just start the game and then you're in. And it gives us the opening of Pac-Man. It has the sound effects close to Pac-Man. It's very good. It's even slightly more polished than the Atari home computer. So these versions, I know they seem to be almost running on the same or very similar hardware. They did not do just a 1-to-1. At least we saw in Galaxian. It wasn't well, Galaxian was actually pretty close. This one is just slightly different, but for the most part, the way it looks, we were impressed when we played this back on the Atari home computer. Now we're playing on home consoles. It's leaps above the other games we could be playing. When you think of the other Pac-Man-like games, especially the one on the VCS. There's also no flickering. Look how smooth it is. It's almost too smooth. And you can pick the difficulty level you want, but you can't play with friends at the same time. So if you're expecting like a multiplayer play, this is not going to happen. When you finish the maze up, I don't even think there's other maze types. I think it's the same maze every time because they're trying to go for the arcade-style Pac-Man. The original Pac-Man was done in a vertical orientation screen, so this is almost like it's flipped to the left, so it can't do the vertical screen play. All right, there we go. Let's grab a strawberry too. Yeah, big time Charlie, no flicker, right? So the things this has, the games that this is competing with that you can play right now across all home consoles, like the best of the best, is Crazy Chewy. That's available on the VTech Creative Vision. That one is like top tier console Pac-Man. It's multiplayer. You can play at the same time. It has lots of different game modes and game variations. Another one it's competing with is Casey Munchkin and Casey's Crazy Chase. Oh, and they got me in. Ladybug, that's on the ColecoVision. Lock and Chase, that's on the Intellivision. Catrax for the Arcadia 2001. And the worst of the worst games that you could play that are Pac-Man style games on home consoles right now are things like Pac Monster, that's on the Epoch Cassette Vision, Candyman, that's on the Bally Astrocade, and Gobbleman, which is the worst of the worst, way low of all the of all the games you could play across all home consoles that are kind of like Pac-Man. So that's just a quick taste, and just like we did with our other release, we are not going to be rating this tonight. We're going to save it for our guest tomorrow night. You're more than welcome to throw out the ratings you'd expect, but I'd actually pit this one somewhere around the average range for all the games you could play up to this point. But it's still fun. You'd have a good time, but it's not enough to... Why get a whole new system? Because you could play other things that are out there. All right, so let's press forward to see our next launch title. Oh, I'm seeing some good ratings out there. Really high ones. Nice. All right, our last game that you can play at launch on the Atari 5200 is Space Invaders. So we've gone back in time. We farther back in time. We first played Galaxian, and then we went back in time and played Pac-Man, and then we went back in time and played the old school, like originally 1978 Space Invaders. That's it. Let's check out Space Invaders for the Atari 5200. This was originally in the arcades April 1978. Before that, before 1978, there was no other games that had invaders in the title. Space Invaders made lots of video games have invaders in the title. The history of Space Invaders, we've actually had a huge gap where we haven't seen anything official in the series, because after that we saw Space Invaders Part 2 in September 1979, and then on the Atari VCS is when we saw Space Invaders in March of 1980. And then we had Space Invaders officially released on the Atari home computer somewhere around the end of 1980. Then we saw Space Invaders Deluxe in the arcade, 1980, and then Space Invaders 2 in 1980, and that's it. There's been no official Space Invaders since 1980. We've seen plenty of copies and clones, but they also changed the artwork up on the front of the box, which is really nice. Yeah, great artwork. Flip it over in the back. Looks like we switched to the worn-out version. Prevent the dangerous Space Invaders from landing on your territory. Destroy them and score points. All right, and it is trackball compatible. Another one. What other artwork do we have for Space Invaders? Yeah, there we go. There's an actual scan of the box. So this is by Taito, officially. Space Invaders. It's the 63rd game that we've seen Taito, the corporation, do for video games. 63 other games. And at home, the only other games that Taito has officially brought over was the one on the Atari VCS and the Atari home computer. This is the third. There's only 3 games by Taito at home. Imagine a world where Taito only has 3 games at home. And here's the idea. What I've seen in magazines. Space Invaders. The Earth Defense Corps. Hey, I've heard that before. Earth Defense Corps is getting around, I guess. And there is our Atari 5200. Brand new. It's just too clean and new. Every experience I've had with the Atari 5200 has been dirty, grungy, and old. And just worn. Just very tired. Yeah, there's some fan arts, and then there's the artwork for the front. Well done. And this is by Atari, the 71st game that they published for home consoles. And there's some, if the artwork was new age Space Invaders, that's some creepy stuff. With the example of screenshot and the manual, I hate to ask it, we don't really know how to, we don't need to know how to play Space Invaders. We got the idea. All right, so here's how to play Space Invaders on the Atari 5200. Now, to be fair, there hasn't been official Space Invaders since 1980, so maybe we do need a refresher. Attack! The Earth Defense Corps has enlisted you. We've been undergoing grueling intensive training for the past 6 weeks. Yes, we're on. We climb into our laser tank. A second enlistee follows you. You settle into deep leather seats. With a soft whirring sound, the automatic hatch closes over your head. Leather seats? They're not giving us those crappy plastic ones? That's really nice. Thanks, Earth Defense Corps. Now I can shoot my Space Invaders in style. I know, Charlie, I'd like to hear what the chat has to say about this one, because this has a lot of contention. All right, the counterattack. The mission is commit it to memory. Your task is to avoid, to stop all the invaders. Make sure they do not come down to Earth and invade our planet or land on the planet. We got 12 game variations. What? Wait a second. 12 game variations? If you remember, this was on the Atari VCS. We had over 120, I think, game variations, and this has a measly 12, and this is still by Atari. It's all the same. I'm flabbergasted. If you destroy all 48 Space Invaders before they touch the planet, a new set will appear on the screen, and you go wave after wave. That's right. And we got shields down at the bottom. Yes, hopefully get the option to move the shields, right? Right? There's the example of the screenshot telling us what everything is, but we gotta have the idea. You don't have to point it out. We know what the shield and laser cannon, we know what all that stuff is. Oh, 116. Thanks, Chiptune. Appreciate it. All right, so there you go. Atari 5200 controller. Yikes, to play Space Invaders. I'd rather have something digital than analog, but we'll see what happens. There's the keypad overlay. All we have, again, the overlay is the numbers on the keypad don't do anything just like they did in Pac-Man. It's just the game select and then the 1 or 2 players. So it's pointless. Why did that have the keypad? A bunch of extra unnecessary buttons. And then they had explained the controller action. Wait a second, they didn't explain anything about okay, they did have 2 players. That's what I wanted to know. And then you can play Space Invaders with a trackball. I wonder if that's going to be easier because you can slide around. Well, I guess paddle controls would be better. I don't know about trackball control. So here's our scoring. It is November 1982. You need to know what the high score is, and there you go. Pause the screen, memorize the high score, and then go. What all the invader saucers, oh, the flying saucers at the top, and what their score value is. This is a lot of information for something so simple. Okay, there you go, the game variation. They have a good choice for beginners, enemy bombs alternating, 5 lives, alien bombs. Okay, so you can see here all the examples of what the game variations do, all 12 of them. So Space Invaders on the Atari VCS had over 100 more game variations than this one. Why would you get the Atari 5200 then? Just stay with that Space Invaders. And then there got some strategy, and then our game select matrix. Hey, there we go. There's a throwback. I really enjoyed those on the Atari VCS. Do we have anybody's high scores? Nope, we do not. Oh, I know. It's got to be terrible. All right, let's pop in and play Space Invaders for the Atari 5200. This is by Eric Manguise and Marilyn Churchill in the beginning of November 1982. The very first game we've seen on the show by those developers. And if you haven't heard of Marilyn Churchill, check her out. She did Eternal Champions on the Sega Genesis, which doesn't come out until forever, here on the show at least. All right, let's play. I'm just going to go right into one player and go. Got it. Yes. So they're coming from the left, just like they did on the Atari home computer, but this one looks completely different than the Atari home computer. The aliens are very animated. The ship down at the bottom, it looks like the same ship we had on the Atari 400 and 800. And what, another UFO already? What? Was that too fast, or was it just me? I felt like there's another UFO. What in the world? I thought the UFO was supposed to be something special and cool, and it's like a rare sight, but here it's... Oh, the other thing it's doing is what we saw on the Atari home computer, too. These Space Invaders aren't progressively getting faster. They just go through 2 phases. They're going to go slow, they're going to go medium, but notice that they're not getting faster until you go to the very last one. Then the very last one speeds up, but it's not like true arcade Space Invaders, like classic Space Invaders style. Oh man, yeah, the analog joystick is very drifty and loose. I don't feel as tight of controls as I did on the Atari VCS joystick. Yeah, it's not rubbing me the right way. It doesn't feel like I'm getting the best experience. So I guess the only thing that's the saving grace is the graphics look better. They animated the Space Invaders. You know, it looks impressive if you saw a still screenshot, or maybe if you saw someone playing it for a little bit. But now I want to know, did the game variations make up for it? So let's start with first, let's play a 2-player game. Oh, I need to finish this one, I think. Go, go, go. Dun, 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 dun. Got a really lucky shot in that one. What in the world? That's not even aliens. What are those, fish? I'm getting Darius vibes way before Darius even comes out. That's just not cool. Space Invaders shouldn't have that. All right, the only saving grace is, do they have the game options? So let's try game options. Okay, here we go. So the pause does work. Can I not change the game options in the middle of the game? Oh, I can't. It won't let me do it. Does that mean you have to reset the whole thing? What? That makes no sense. All right, we'll go. We'll go for a reset. And this time we will try to get the different game variations. Okay, ready? There it is. So we can do a player 1 or player 2 version. And then we should be able to go, yeah, there we go. So games. So you can do different game modes, and some of them have different live options. So let's go with game option number 9. Ready, go. And I did a 2-player... What? I did a 2-player game, but there's no 2-player simultaneous mode? I checked lots of game footage trying to find if there's a way to play 2 players at the same time. Not only does this do 2 players where you have to hot seat arcade style only, but it also does 2 players are sharing the same Atari 5200 joystick, which means if you have 2 joysticks, you and your friend can't alternate turns on this. So someone else can verify with me, but is there not a way to play this with 2 people on 2 different joysticks, or maybe one Atari 5200 joystick and 1 trackball controller? Oh, really, Brad? That's cool. Yeah, there's been lots of cool Frankenstein controllers that have been done. You can see I'm in game mode 9, so it's a little bit more intense, at least bullet-wise. But this is a kind of a bizarre experience, because this is the 367th fixed shooter that we played on all systems since the beginning of time. It's the 45th one that we played on home consoles. Space Invaders games that are like specifically designed to play like Space Invaders, or a clone of Space Invaders, we played over 100 up to this point. And that's not counting all the clones of Astro Invader, or the clones of Galaxian, or the clones of Phoenix that are out there. So some of the best ones you could play right now on home consoles are Space Invaders for the Atari VCS. There's also there's Sonic Invader for the Creativision, Communist Mutants from Space. Can I not reset? Okay, fine. We'll just quit out of there. You can play Space Destroyers on the APF MP1000. You can play Mega Mania by Activision on the Atari VCS. You can play Space Chase by Apollo on the Atari VCS. You can play Alien Invaders on the Arcadia 2001. You can play Astro Battle, which is renamed to Space, which they had to change from Space Invaders on the Valley Astrocade. You can play Alien Invasion on the Fairchild Channel F. You can play Deadly Duck for the Atari VCS. You can play Alien Invaders Plus for the Magnavox Odyssey 2. You could play Space Armada for the Intellivision. You could play Battle Vader for the Epoch Cassette Vision in Japan. All those are possible to play on home consoles right now. And the reason why this game sucks compared to all the other games you could be playing is there's no 2-player simultaneous, there's no moving shields option, there's no invisible invaders option, and the analog controls. There's just so many design options that make this not as good as all the other ones. I'm already seeing in the chat, 2.5 from James, 3.5 from Brad, and I think Brad just boasted he has the whole collection of the Atari 5200. So I really love the rating out there. Yeah, so it's a totally different take of Space Invaders. It's not a 1-to-1, and I have seen someone do a homebrew version on the 5200 that looks really close to what you could play in the arcade. So it's definitely possible. All right, so there you go, the Atari 5200. The launch of the 5200. So we did this episode a little bit different, just had a quick taste of some gameplay and what the games were possible to see the first time you could experience the Atari 5200. We did play Super Breakout first, so right now there's 4 games you could be playing on the Atari 5200 Super System. So what'd you think? Of all of the consoles that are out there, this one isn't nearly as packing a punch like we saw with ColecoVision. ColecoVision hit a lot harder and seemed more like the next generation or closer to the next generation console, even though it really isn't. We all know what the next generation console is. So now we get to have a lot of fun. Next time on Chronologically Gaming, we need an Atari 5200 expert. And who better than the creator of Prime Video's The Video Game Years and co-founder of RetroWare TV. Join Chronologically Gaming and special guest John D'Elia to play the launch titles of the Atari 5200. That's it for today, and like I always say, if you knew what's best for you, stop making video game consoles. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every weekday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and let us know if we missed any games along the way. This video would not be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and MAME. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every single video game. We have links down below that'll send you to places like our Discord and Patreon, and one that says all the video games we've ever played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.